Professor Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore is a fictional character in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. For most of the series, he is the headmaster of the wizarding school Hogwarts. As part of his backstory, it is revealed that he is the founder and leader of the Order of the Phoenix, an organization dedicated to fighting Lord Voldemort. Dumbledore is portrayed by Richard Harris in the film adaptations of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. After Harris's death, Michael Gambon portrayed Dumbledore for all of the remaining films. Rowling stated she chose the name Dumbledore, which is an early modern English word for bumblebee, because of Dumbledore's love of music. She imagined him walking around humming to himself a lot. Character development. The author has stated that she enjoys writing Dumbledore because he is the epitome of goodness. Rowling said that Dumbledore speaks for her, as he knows pretty much everything about the Harry Potter universe. Rowling mentioned that Dumbledore regrets that he has always had to be the one who knew and who had the burden of knowing, and he would rather not know. As a mentor to the central character Harry Potter, Dumbledore is a very wise man who knows that Harry is going to have to learn a few hard lessons to prepare him for what may be coming in his life. He allows Harry to get into what he wouldn't allow another pupil to do, and he also unwillingly permits Harry to confront things he'd rather protect him from. Quote, in a 1999 interview, Rowling stated that she imagined Dumbledore more as a John Gielgud type, quite elderly and quite stately. During his time as a student, Dumbledore was in Gryffindor House. Rowling said in an interview that Dumbledore was about 150 years old. However, on her website, she states that Dumbledore was born in 1881, making him either 115 or 116 when he died. On the 19th of October 2007, Rowling was asked by a young fan whether Dumbledore finds true love. Rowling said that she always thought of Dumbledore as being homosexual and that he had fallen in love with Gellert Grindelwald, which was Dumbledore's great tragedy. Rowling did not explicitly state whether Grindelwald returned his affections. Rowling explains this further by elaborating on the motivations behind Dumbledore's flirtation with the idea of wizard domination of Muggles. He lost his moral compass completely when he fell in love, and I think subsequently became very mistrustful of his own judgment in those matters, so became quite asexual. He led a celibate and a bookish life. Appearances. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. In the opening chapter of the first novel of the series, Dumbledore arrives at number 4 Privet Drive in Little Whinging, Surrey, when the evil wizard Lord Voldemort kills Harry's parents before being reduced to a lesser form. Dumbledore decides to place the now orphaned Harry in the home of Vernon and Petunia Dursley. He knows that Harry will be protected by the special magic caused by his mother's sacrifice. After he evokes the magic of the bond of blood, and Harry's aunt, his mother's sister, Petunia Evans Dursley, sealed it by accepting her nephew into her home. This old magic of binding love renders Voldemort incapable of touching Harry. Dumbledore leaves Harry upon the doorstep of the Dursley home with a letter explaining the situation. He departs with the final phrase, "Good luck, Harry." When Harry arrives at Hogwarts, Dumbledore tells him about the secrets of the Mirror of Erise, claiming that when he looks into it, he sees himself holding a pair of thick, woolen socks. Harry later recalls in the final book that this was probably the only dishonest answer Dumbledore ever gave him. He is also responsible for somehow enchanting the mirror so that it hides the Philosopher's Stone, and only someone who looked into the mirror and whose desire was to find the stone, but not use it, would receive it, as anybody else would only see themselves using the stone due to the mirror's special magic. He is called out to the Ministry of Magic by a false message on the night when Professor Professor Quirinus Quirrell, Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger enter the dungeons to retrieve the stone, but realizes during the trip that he is needed at Hogwarts and returns in time to rescue Harry from Quirrell and Voldemort. He also has a final conversation with Harry after the events down in the dungeons and tells him that he is too young to comprehend the information about why Voldemort attempts to kill him. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. In the second novel, Dumbledore suspects that Tom Riddle is somehow involved in the attacks on the Muggle-born students, as he says. When asked who is the culprit, not who, but how, a younger Dumbledore appears in Riddle's diary when Harry sees his memory, and asks Riddle if he knows anything about the attacks on the students. During the last half of the novel, Lucius Malfoy forces the school's other 11 governors to suspend Dumbledore as headmaster in the wake of attacks by a basilisk in the school. When the Chamber of Secrets is opened, Dumbledore is reinstated when the governors discover that Ginny Weasley was taken into the Chamber of Secrets and Lucius is found to have coerced the other governors into suspending him. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. At the beginning of the third novel, Dumbledore is forced to accept Dementors onto his school's grounds for the protection of his students from Sirius Black, the supposed murderer and accessory to murder who had escaped from Azkaban. After Black's breach into Hogwarts, Dumbledore issues orders to close every entrance to the school and grounds. After Harry falls off his broomstick during a Quidditch match because of the Dementors, Dumbledore becomes uncharacteristically angry with them and uses his wand to cause Harry to levitate safely to the ground. Later in the book, Dumbledore suggests Hermione Granger use her ministry-approved time turner to go back 3 hours to save Buckbeak the Hippogriff and Sirius from their unjust executions. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. In the fourth novel, Dumbledore introduces the Triwizard Tournament. He also serves as a judge during the entire event. When Harry's name comes out of the Goblet of Fire, Dumbledore is not enraged, but remains calm, simply asking Harry whether he had himself, or he had asked an older student to submit his name. When Harry answers no, he believes him. By the end of the book, Dumbledore's fears are realized when Harry returns from his encounter with Voldemort clutching the dead body of Cedric Diggory, and when Alastor Moody takes Harry away from Dumbledore and to his office inside the castle. Dumbledore immediately becomes suspicious and heads straight towards Moody's office with Minerva McGonagall and Severus Snape to save Harry and to interrogate Crouch. Afterwards, Dumbledore listens to Harry's eyewitness account about Voldemort's return. Harry, though, only wakes up later to find Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge in the hospital wing arguing with McGonagall and Dumbledore. In the end, Fudge and Dumbledore part ways after an argument about the situation of Voldemort's return and the consequences that would follow should Fudge remain in denial of this fact. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. In the fifth book, Dumbledore is demoted from Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot, voted out of the chairmanship of the International Confederation of Wizards, and is almost stripped of his Order of Merlin First Class due to his speeches regarding the return of Voldemort, although it is reported that he is unconcerned as long as he is not taken off the chocolate frog cards. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Magic does everything they can to discredit him and Harry, mainly through the Daily Prophet. At the beginning of the book, Dumbledore enrages Fudge when he stops by at Harry's hearing with a witness to ensure that he is not expelled. While Harry feels better when Dumbledore assists him, he becomes annoyed to the point of being angry that the headmaster refuses to speak to or even look at him. During the following year at Hogwarts, the Ministry passes Educational Decree 22, allowing Fudge to place Dolores Umbridge to the post of defense against the dark arts teacher. Through her, Fudge gradually gains power over Hogwarts, and Dumbledore, who he fears, is building an underage wizard army to overthrow the Ministry. Umbridge forbids practical defense practice in her classes, forcing Harry, Ron, and Hermione to form Dumbledore's army with fellow friends. It is when the Ministry discovers the D.A. that Dumbledore, choosing to accept the responsibility, falsely claims that the organization was his own subversive creation, and allows himself to be removed as headmaster rather than allow Harry to be expelled. Dumbledore is not heard of again in the book until he arrives in the Department of Mysteries to aid the Order in the battle against the Death Eaters. He subdues all the Death Eaters, except for Bellatrix Lestrange, and binds them with an anti-disapparition jinx to prevent them from magically escaping. He then saves Harry from the Avada Kedavra curse conjured by Voldemort and engages in a ferocious duel with the Dark Lord. This culminates in Voldemort's attempting to possess Harry in an attempt to make Dumbledore kill the boy. Voldemort is forced to leave Harry's body and flee with Bellatrix after this ruse fails. Many Ministry officials having witnessed the end of the battle, Dumbledore is reinstated as headmaster and retrieves all his distinctions. Towards the end of the book, Dumbledore explains to Harry that Voldemort chose him as his equal and that one must kill the other in the end, and confesses that his great affection for Harry has clouded his judgment. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. In the 6th book, Dumbledore fetches Harry from Privet Drive and takes him to persuade Horace Slughorn to rejoin the Hogwarts staff. Harry notices that Dumbledore's right hand is shriveled and black. During the school year, Dumbledore teaches Harry of events in Voldemort's past that he feels are of immense importance. Using the pensieve, they visit the memories of others, which contain important information about Voldemort's life and his genocidal rise to power. While using the pensieve, Harry sees a vision of Dumbledore's first encounter with Voldemort. Then a disturbed young orphan named Tom Riddle. Dumbledore had known from the beginning that the boy was dangerous, but believed that Hogwarts would change him. It is learned that Voldemort created 6 Horcruxes to gain immortality and that they must all be destroyed before Harry goes after the final piece of Voldemort's soul in the Dark Lord's body. Harry also repeatedly warns Dumbledore in most of the lessons that another student, Draco Malfoy, is working for Voldemort. Dumbledore refuses to take any action against Draco, and instead tells Harry that he already knows more about what is happening than Harry does. By the end of the book, Dumbledore and Harry set out to the cave where Dumbledore believes the Horcrux resides. In the cave, Dumbledore drinks a potion inside the Horcrux's container. While drinking it, he begins to scream, seemingly enduring mental torture and being weakened. Dumbledore begins to call out for water after he finishes the potion, and Harry, realizing he has no other choice, dips the goblet into the lake to give him a drink. When he does this, though, all the Inferi that reside in the lake grab at Harry and attempt to drag him down and drown him in the lake. Dumbledore suddenly recovers, thanks to the water, and conjures a fireless ooze around them. Dumbledore takes the Horcrux and both make the way back out of the cave and back to Hogsmeade. When they return, Madame Rossmurter informs them that the Dark Mark was conjured over the astronomy tower. In the tower, Dumbledore enjoins Harry not to interfere in the events that are about to take place there, and places him in a body-binding curse under his invisibility cloak. Hidden, Harry is unable to intervene as Dumbledore is disarmed by Draco Malfoy. Dumbledore is conversing with Draco about the plot to kill him, when several other Death Eaters enter the tower and try to persuade Draco to kill Dumbledore. When Draco hesitates, Snape appears and performs the killing curse on Dumbledore only after Dumbledore pleads with Snape saying, "Severus, please." To what Dumbledore was referring is not revealed until the 7th book. Dumbledore dies in Hogwarts grounds. Shortly after his death, Dumbledore's portrait magically appears in the headmaster's office. His funeral is attended by students, Hogwarts staff, members of the Ministry of Magic, ghosts, centaurs, merpeople and others who wish to pay their respects. Shrouded in purple velvet, he is entombed in a white marble sarcophagus beside the lake at Hogwarts, and it is said that he is the only headmaster to be buried on the school grounds. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Rowling used several chapters in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows to reveal two main matters concerning Dumbledore: his early life and his death. The book introduces his parents, Percival and Kendra Dumbledore, as well as his little sister, Ariana. His brother, Aberforth Dumbledore, was mentioned in previous books. At 6 years old, Ariana was attacked by 3 Muggle boys who had witnessed her doing magic. Because of this attack, Ariana was seriously traumatized and never able to control her magic again, having recurring outbursts of magic. Enraged, Percival mercilessly attacked the Muggle boys, and was sentenced to life in Azkaban. After this, Kendra moved her family to the village of Godric's Hollow. In one of her outbursts, Ariana accidentally kills Kendra around the time Albus has completed his education. Albus becomes the head of the family and is forced to remain in his house with his sister Ariana while Aberforth completes his education. Soon afterward, a young Gellert Grindelwald arrived in Godric's Hollow to live with his great-aunt, Bathilda Bagshot, author of A History of Magic. The two young men took to each other immediately, and together they dreamed of a world ruled by wizards over muggles by uniting the legendary Deathly Hallows. They believed that if they were forced to destroy a few along the way, it would still be for the greater good, and the sufferings and losses would be rewarded 100-fold in the end. This scenario would never happen, though. A discussion between Albus, Aberforth, and Grindelwald led to a duel that resulted in Ariana's death. For the rest of his life, Albus felt guilty, never certain whether it was his own curse or another's that had killed his sister. Grindelwald stormed back to Bagshot's home and departed to begin his own rule, leaving the country hours later. As a result of his mistakes, Albus felt that he was not to be trusted with power and, because of this, never took the position of Minister for Magic, despite being offered it several times. Dumbledore returned to Hogwarts as Professor of Transfiguration, and he served in recruiting students for the school. Decades later, in 1945, Dumbledore finally defeated the now dark wizard Grindelwald, who had come to possess the Elder Wand. Grindelwald's defeat made Dumbledore the master of the Elder Wand, which remained his until just before his death, when Draco Malfoy used the disarming charm on him. Dumbledore had another Hallow in his keeping since the death of James Potter, the invisibility cloak, which he had borrowed to examine. When James died, Dumbledore kept the cloak and decided to pass it on to Harry, James's son. The truth about Dumbledore's death is revealed through Snape's last memories in the Pensieve. Harry learns that Dumbledore made a terrible error by placing a cursed ring on his right hand, sometime between the the 5th and 6th book, forgetting the curses that must be on the ring. The ring held the resurrection stone, which Dumbledore hoped to use to allow him to apologize to his sister and parents. Dumbledore called Snape to help him. However, when Snape arrived and assessed the curse, all he could do was contain it. Snape told Dumbledore that he had little more than a year to live. After hearing this news, Dumbledore revealed to Snape that he knew about Voldemort's plan to have Draco kill him. He asked Snape to use the killing curse on him when the time came because he did not want Draco to have to kill him, saying that the boy's soul was still intact. Draco's soul would have been damaged in killing Dumbledore out of malice, whereas Snape was fully aware that he would be merely sparing Dumbledore pain and humiliation. He also intended for Snape to be the one to kill him and for the Elder Wand to be buried with him, in order to prevent the wand from being passed on again. Dumbledore appears one last time to Harry towards the end of the book in a limbo like King's Cross, after Harry is struck with the killing curse which was conjured by Voldemort. During the last book, Harry finds out that he must die because he is a Horcrux. When Voldemort conjures the killing curse, Harry does not fight back, which stops him from dying. When they meet again, the boy comforts Dumbledore as he confesses all of his many regrets. Dumbledore then informs Harry of the choice he still has, of moving on to the next life or returning to his body to face Voldemort one last time. After returning from the mystical King's Cross and defeating Voldemort for good, Harry has a short conversation with Dumbledore's portrait in the headmaster's office about the fate of each of the 3 Deathly Hallows. He keeps the cloak, leaves the stone in the Forbidden Forest where he dropped it, and returns the Elder Wand to Dumbledore's tomb. In the epilogue, it is revealed that Harry names his second son Albus Severus Potter after Dumbledore and Snape. Portrayals within films. In the film adaptations of Philosopher's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, Dumbledore was played by Richard Harris, who was expected to play Dumbledore throughout the series. Harris mentioned that he was originally not going to take the role, since he knew his own health was in decline. He accepted because his then 11-year-old granddaughter threatened never to speak to him again if he did not take it. Harris was determined to portray Dumbledore again in Prisoner of Azkaban, despite having been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and asked David Heyman not to recast the role. However, his death on the 25th of October 2002 necessitated recasting. Sir Ian McKellen was offered the role, but he turned it down, having played the similar character Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, as well as feeling it would have been inappropriate to take Harris's role, as Harris had called McKellen a dreadful actor. Harris's family had expressed an interest in seeing Harris's close friend Peter O'Toole being chosen as his replacement. Sir Michael Gambon was cast as Harris's replacement 4 months after Harris's death. Gambon was not concerned about bettering Harris, and he portrayed the character in his own way, putting on a slight Irish accent for the role, as well as completing his scenes in 3 weeks. Gambon reprised his role in all the remaining films. Toby Regbo was chosen to portray Dumbledore in his youth in Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2. The flashback scenes which provide essential information on the character's backstory. In the Chamber of Secrets DVD interview, screenwriter Steve Kloves stated that he considers Dumbledore a fascinating character because of the wisdom he provides, but he feels that Dumbledore bears such a tremendous dark burden, and he knows secrets, and I think in many ways he bears the weight of the future of the wizard world, and the only way that he can keep that at bay, the darkness, is to be whimsical and humorous.